Hello everyone. I just wanted to do a quick chat about, we're going to continue with social studies where we left off. Last time we talked about Bunker Hill, and I feel that it is only right to continue. So this is just more for enrichment for your knowledge. I know some of you really enjoy history like I do, and I want to be sure that you have the information you need for that. Because we didn't quite finish. So I will be posting another presentation. The next thing we'll be talking about is the Declaration of Independence. And I know we've been talking about it somewhat because you are learning to memorize it, but I will be doing more of a historical background of that and what it all means. So stay tuned for that this week. But today, this happened before then. So we got to talk about the Olive Branch Petition and common sense. And these are things you may have not heard of as much, but they are important. I do not have any personal pictures of these things because they're not places. It's more documents. They're both documents and things that have happened. So, yeah, I don't have any personal photos of attending anything. However, I still want to talk about it. Let's start with Olive Branch Petition because this happened first. It actually happened on July 5th, 1775. So I think the first thing we need to ask, because it won't make any sense if you don't know what olive branch means and the extension of an olive branch. What does that mean? It means an offering of peace. It's actually a biblical background where the dove brings back the olive branch, and that just displays that peace. So a peace offering kind of thing. So this was something that Congress really wanted to do with the British. They didn't want to go to war. They wanted to see if they could somehow make the peace before they moved ahead. So Congress approved the Olive Branch Petition that they created, and it was a final appeal to the king to reconcile with the colonies, meaning, this was their way of showing we want to get along. And I think you read a little bit about it last week when we had our language arts readings that you had to do. Most American delegates were still loyal to King George III. As they said, I think that was one of your questions. They asked, why were they still calling themselves British? Well, again, they wanted to keep the peace, and a lot of them were still loyal to the king. And they pleaded with him to resolve these issues peacefully without having to go to war, without having to get violence involved. But the king refused, and he even hired Hessian mercenaries. What are Hessian mercenaries? They are paid soldiers, and they came from Germany. They were really, really tough soldiers. And they brought them back to control the colonists. That wouldn't feel so good, would it? And we're going to see the Hessians as we continue on with history. So what do we do from there? I went too far. So the Olive Branch Petition, cries for independence grew stronger, and some of the members of Congress were wanted for treason. So they weren't really getting anywhere with this Olive Branch Petition, were they? So with a peaceful solution not hopeful in the near future, it was inevitable that a Declaration of Independence would be adopted in the summer of 1776. So this part had to happen first for them to realize you can't say that they didn't try to go in a peaceful way. But then they realized, okay, I guess this is not how it's going to be, so we are going to create our Declaration of Independence, which we will talk about next time. This is an image of the document itself that they had, the petition. So I thought that was important for you to see. You'll see a lot of our forefathers. You'll see John Hancock right there. Their signatures. Okay, so that was the Olive Branch Petition. Common Sense, 1776. What is Common Sense? It was actually a pamphlet, and it was written by Thomas Paine, and it became the most popular pamphlet in the colonies. It was really common for people to pass out pamphlets around on the streets for people to read. It was the first written request for independence from Britain. There was nothing else out there like that. talk about freedom of speech and freedom of the press, right? He was able to get the word out on that we need independence. And so he was able to write that, and a lot of people were able to see it. And it attacked the laws formed by the Parliament, and it was written in plain language. Well, maybe at that time. I think people still read it today. It may not be plain language for us today, but back then it was their plain language. He wanted to reach all the common people. He didn't just want to reach certain people or people that were educated. He wanted to make sure that everyone understood this is what is happening. And I think that is very important whenever, wherever you are in time, it's important to be educated. It's important to know what is going on presently. It's important to know what's happened in our history. And so that way we can move forward in an educated way in the future. And our forefathers were really big on this. And we need to keep that going even through this day today, right? So that's why it's important for me to teach you history so you can see what happened. And so I think, this pamphlet is very, very important. So this had, I just had a few pictures. So that's Thomas Paine, and you're going to meet him. If you watch the Liberties Kids video, you'll see him. You'll be introduced because then they're going to talk about common sense. Address to the Inhabitants of America, written by an Englishman. January 10th, 1776, by Thomas Paine. So you'll kind of see the highlights of what the common sense was all about. But again, it was just a written form to get out there to the people. And this was really, really important for us to move forward. So the next part of history, we're going to talk about the Declaration of Independence. And obviously, that's a very important document. And I hope you're working on memorizing it too. So next time I'll talk to you, I will be talking about that. Thanks.